Welcome. Call to order the May 11th board meeting for Beechwood Independent.
Mrs. Berger? Here. Mr. Burns?
Here.
Mr. Hood?
Here.
Mrs. Slate?
Here.
Mrs. Wood?
Here.
All right. Recognition. There's no one on the.
Nobody to speak. Okay.
First, before we go, I know we did the principal meet and greet. Miss Jessica Pass, welcome to Beechwood.
Hi. Thank you.
Just want to say I know you had to take off, so.
Yeah.
Welcome. Thanks for coming tonight.
Thank you. I'm thrilled to be here. I can't wait to work with every single one of you guys. So.
The turnout for your first meet and greet is more than all of my superintendent advisories combined.
We're starting a trend.
Knowing your father, I'm a little worried.
Yeah, you should.
So just wanted to say welcome to Beechwood.
Thank you so much.
Next up, we have the Superintendent 3Ps Award winner, Miss Erin Getz. She was nominated for exemplifying positivity. I chose positivity. This is for Michael Brinkman. I chose positivity but wish I could have chosen all of the 3Ps. Erin Getz embodies all of them truly. Professionalism. She sets the bar high for all of us in the cul-de-sac wing of the high school, whether it's talking with a student or contacting a parent or colleague. Erin always leads with respect. From a positivity aspect, Erin shows this every day when she greets her students as they come into the classroom, when she asks colleagues about their own kids, or sets up a front porch Friday. Erin began these this year as a way to welcome students as they come by our rooms. The teachers in this area bring lawn chairs and create a front porch where students pick up a positive affirmation note. Created, printed, and cut out by Erin. And a big hug. Progressive mindset. I've never been in a meeting with Erin when afterwards she doesn't lead with what went well in that meeting. Erin wants to talk about what can be done to improve learning for kids. This is a large part of what motivates her to be a 3-year member of the SBDM. Just recently, she shared with some of what they had done in SBDM, wanting feedback on the process. After PLCs, Erin reflects on strategies and practices shared about how we can use these with our kiddos. I could write one more, but if you know Erin, my words aren't going to do her justice in all that she does for our kids. I'm so proud of her when I see her giving her time after school to work with kids or model for kids how to improve their behavior. I admire her as a colleague and as a parent of one of her students. I'm grateful she is at BHS. We're in our spot.
Congratulations.
Made an idea lab.
Yes. Oh, sorry. No, you're fine. So well deserved.
Erin, thanks for all you do. Just being able to work with Erin on SBDM for a little bit over the past month and just having hired her a little while back, just nothing but not just positivity, the 3Ps. Professionalism, great model teacher. So glad that she's at Beechwood. And special thank you to the Autos group for giving us gift cards. So every one of the winners gets like a gift card to one of those restaurants down there in Covington. And so special thank you to them for giving us a bunch of gift cards to give out. Next up, we have Miss Bella Sloan, or Poetry Out Loud. You can stand up from there if you want, so you don't have to walk all the way around. So you won state, right?
Yes, I did.
All right, tell us about, because I watched a little bit of the video when you were at DC. Tell us about that experience at DC.
It was amazing. I didn't really want to leave. I got to explore DC, but also present some poems. It was lovely, and I got to meet a bunch of people who also really enjoy poetry. It was amazing.
Great. So what role did Miss Seifert play in all this?
She's my coach.
Mhm.
She basically led me through everything. I would not have made it there without her.
How long have you been here at Beechwood?
I've been here since I was a freshman, so 3 years now.
It's your third year. What's the biggest difference from where you were to Beechwood now?
I'd say Beechwood is a much more kind of close-knit community. It's very small and very personable.
Yeah. Okay. So are you going to do it again next year?
Maybe?
Okay. So can you repeat? Can you go back-to-back state champ? Can you do it again? You
Absolutely.
can? Okay.
She was a state runner-up 2 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you can do it again, back-to-back. That's what we do here. We do back-to-back. So you are the front runner for next year. Well, congratulations. We're proud of you. Just another great thing to see. Like, we get accolades for all the other things, athletics, but when the arts thrive here as well, it just makes us so much better. So really appreciate it. Good job. Yeah, come on up. Picture.
Yeah. Her mom was able to make this.
Yeah, well, it could be.
Picture.
You're in the middle. Come on, coach. Come on up here.
You come right on up. You're good. You go first.
And we are so thankful for Miss Seaver. She's made a huge difference in the lives of both of our children, so I feel like that must be said. Okay, thank you.
Sorry, can I get one too really quick?
One more.
So we can recognize her on social media. Congratulations.
Moving on to our discussion and action agenda items. A is to amend the board policy 1.545, board meeting agenda. So kind of take a motion to approve the amended board policy.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second. Discussion, I know the second reading, do we have any discussion on not the right one? Any questions?
I'm trying to find the.
Would it be helpful, Erin, and I'm calling on you, but like, are you able to call out just the differences in an easily digestible way?
I can. If you give me 1 moment, I can
Okay.
actually do that. So just as some reference and context for the public before the vote, this was a policy that was already in place, but after the board retreat earlier in the year, the consensus was to develop some changes just to mirror what the sequence should be when we're setting the board agenda, how that's done in collaboration with the superintendent in central office and ultimately the board chair because it is a board meeting. And so we worked through a couple of drafts of that and then finalized those terms. And if you guys hang tight, are you sending it? Okay. We do have a red line version that was circulated amongst the board members. But, okay, and Lori is helping me.
Yeah. I don't know if there's anything specific or. Yeah, that means easier.
Is this something that at the other districts that you've worked in, does it mirror the language that you've used there, or how did you come up with it?
Yeah, I can, so yeah, this does mirror the language that's utilized in other districts. Most importantly is before, and I'll be really specific, there wasn't really reflecting that the board chair ultimately approved the agenda, right? So we are at a board meeting and the board is the one that takes action. So arguably they should be the individuals that are taking final approval of that. So the actual changes that were made, and to be clear, this is policy 1.45. Instead of the superintendent entirely preparing the agenda, that's done in conjunction with the superintendent does it, board chair approves it. So that was one of the amendments that was made. The second thing is we had all these kind of provisions related to like the board's focus, and some of them were part of the board mission, some of them weren't, so we just removed them to kind of make it more concise. And those were, I think there were 6 that were in the first version, those have been removed entirely. And then the other thing that we kind of clarified is during public comment. Again, board meeting, the board has jurisdiction over many things, but it doesn't have jurisdiction over personnel issues, okay? The only people that the board can hire and fire are me and the superintendent, arguably the treasurer of the board, and et cetera. So personnel issues actually aren't under the purview of the board. So we made an amendment, the very last paragraph of that policy that says the board shall not hear comment on any items outside of the board's purview, including personnel issues, okay? So those are the major call-outs as I see them. And again, just to kind of reflect, if we're trying to advance more sequence and order in how we're doing things, this is one of the action items that my office had made a suggestion to.
Thank you.
Of course.
The thing about no comment outside the board's purview, is that something we'd encountered, or is it that, again, something you recognize other districts you represent have that in their policy that we didn't?
Sure. So since I've been covering board meetings since October, November of 2025, I don't recall that being something that I've encountered for Beechwood specifically. However, it is something that is popping up. I also think that for me, I have the advantage and the wherewithal to know that you guys don't make personnel decisions if people are hired and fired. I don't necessarily know if the public appreciates that, has ever been told that, and so they may come in, I'm not saying that's happened at Beechwood specifically, but they have come to other districts, and the public wants answers to certain things that may have happened, but the board is not equipped to answer those, nor can they really, because they didn't make the decision. So I think that it is helpful to include that information in a policy that can be referenced by everyone. And if you look at a host of AG opinions, again, the Attorney General is going to be the one that is going to give you guidance on what you can talk about in open meeting and discussions, and they have always squarely come down. If it's outside your purview and jurisdiction, you really may not be able to have a comment on it. So again, I have noticed here that Beechwood is very inviting to its public. They want people to come and participate. They want them to come voice maybe a position that's held. But again, this is just a reminder that there's some things that just don't fall under the board's jurisdiction.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Any other discussion?
No, I mean, the policy now on the agenda reflects what we've been doing. It's just that
Now it's
it's now, but yeah, we've been doing it that way for years now.
Right, great. Okay. Ready to vote?
Mrs. Berger?
Yes.
Mr. Burns?
Yes.
Mr. Hood?
Yes.
Mrs. Slate?
Yes.
Mrs. Wood?
Yes. Okay. Right, moving on to B, to amend the board policy 1.421, public participation in open meetings. Can I take a motion to approve that amended policy?
I'll make the motion to approve the amended board policy 1.45 regarding the board meeting agenda.
Oh,
sorry.
This is one.
Sorry, wrong one. 1.421, public participation in open meetings.
I'll second.
Okay.
That's why I just always say I make the motion.
Just keep it nice and simple.
Okay. Any discussion on that? Is there anything you'd like to add to that, Karen?
Honestly, the amendments that were proposed in this policy kind of piggyback on the last question that was posed by Mr. Burns. Again, we just wanted to flesh out some of the guardrails related to public comment period. And frankly, we also wanted to, in my mind, codify that the board is operating what we call Robert's Rule of Order, right? So that gives us our sequence. To Ms. Berger's point, these are things that were being done historically. It's just that now we can say, why are we doing this? We have a policy on it. So when you hear the call for a first and second motion, that's because we're adhering to Robert's rules. And now we've just embedded it within our own policy so that future boards know why we may have operated the way that we are. So that isn't really a departure from anything. Again, nothing that I've experienced at Beechwood to date related to public comment, but there are things that the chairperson is equipped and authorized to do with this policy just to keep order throughout a meeting. Again, nothing that hasn't occurred here, more cautionary. And again, if it ever comes up, then we have justification with how we may be operating. So,
Thank you.
of course.
Ready? Mrs. Berger,
Yes.
Mr. Burns,
Yes.
Mr. Hood,
Yes.
Mrs. Slate,
Yes.
Mrs. Wood.
Yes. Okay, moving on to C is the auditor recommendation and contract for Cloyd and Associates. If I can get a motion to approve the contract for Cloyd and Associates, which is the same auditor we've used the past three
This is
years.
the third year.
Third year, yeah.
And we'll have to, at the end of this year, this
We'll have to bid it
upcoming
out.
year, we'll have to do an RFP to bid that out.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Then we can have discussion.
Yeah, any other discussion?
So I want to clarify that. So are we approving it for next year? And then at the end of this year, we will put it out to bid for the following year. So they'll still do the audit that we'll get next January. And
Yeah,
then-
that's because the audit they're doing is this fiscal year.
Okay.
That's what we're approving for this fiscal year's audit. So when this ends in June 30th, they'll do the audit.
So between July 1 and Christmas, basically, they'll do the audit and then they'll come to us in the winter, present the results. And at that point, we will have either renewed them or accepted somebody else for the following fiscal
Is
year.
it only 4 years? Is it every 4 years?
5.
Is that 5?
I think it's 4 that we've had them now, if I remember. I remember looking this up. I know this coming year, we have to rebid it, or we have to take it out to bid. The only thing they could do, they could also like change the lead on it or something, like, so right now it's Madra Miller, and they could maybe potentially put someone else in charge, and you can kind of keep the same auditor. The state allows that a little bit, but, because it's so hard to find an auditor, just let me tell you that right now. It's hard to find people to bid on this work. So,
Yeah.
and everyone's experiencing that in the industry, so.
Any more discussion?
Mrs. Berger,
Yes.
Mr. Burns,
Yes.
Mr. Hood,
Yes.
Mrs. Slate,
Yes.
Mrs. Wood.
Yes. Okay. D is just a discussion item. No action will be taken at the meeting tonight, but we're going to discuss naming of the stadium, board policy 5.1.
I know we probably don't have reason for the working session at the end of this month, so this is to kind of have that discussion that we could have in the working session at the end of the month. Just, board policy 5.1 says that the board can put into place with the superintendent a procedure to name, a new build of any sort. And so it was raised at the time, maybe a year and a half ago, about naming something for the former coach of Beechwood, Mike Yeagle, and stadium being maybe one of those options. And so it was just, if possible, no rush, just to start the conversation on ideas around possibly naming a stadium after someone who's reached that kind of status of success here in Beechwood.
And the decision is ultimately ours as a group, yours, how does the, do we,
And we'll vote
The
on
board's
board's decision for facilities.
Yeah. okay?
Any discussion? Anybody have
Thoughts
talk
on
about
it? Well, I mean, when we first talked about, like, when we redid the facilities, there was a, sheet put together about naming rights, because they went and traveled through, I don't know, Justin, were you a part of that, I think?
The one I remember, the capital campaign.
Right, it was
That had
tied to the
the,
capital campaign.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a quick, who's she? You said she put together.
No, I said, did I say she? No, I meant to say that they put together.
Okay, I just wanted to know who it
Admin
was. I
group,
don't-
yeah,
Okay.
that was put together, and, but just laid out, you know, naming rights, any kind of like donation, that type of thing that went to capital, campaign.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Yeah,
but the policy doesn't say that it has to be monetary, but I know we already have the arch up there. I mean, do we keep it named this, like, the official, since it's not just a, I mean, are you talking just the stadium, or are you talking like the whole, like the tennis courts, the
No, just so you have the things that are named on campus now. You have the upper fields that are the Bramwell upper field area. You have the whole complex is the Edgar McNabb. Those are the only two things that are named. You have the Hood Field House. It used to be Daniels Stadium or
Was it
Daniels
Daniels
Field.
Stadium
It's
or
a
Field?
Daniels
Is it
Stadium.
Okay.
But that, in the renovation got demoed and right of first refusal, but they've not had any correspondence with us. And so in that policy 5.1, it states that do a right of first refusal from that on naming. But with that redo, that build, we had the capital campaign that listed out this room, every new building,
Right.
every several spots around campus.
To include the stadium?
The stadium was
It was.
on that list, but
It
now
was.
the capital campaign is
It has
ended.
ended, exactly, okay.
And so
So no one had
We-
stepped up to,
there was a group of people that got together that had started to look at potential for fundraising to name that. But over the course of time, in that year and a half, has it been 2 years? I don't even know. I think it's been about 2. A lot of people took a step back and said, I don't feel comfortable assigning money to someone who gave to the school already, versus I want to name it after my grandpa, or
Right,
my
right.
mom or something like that. I'm going to give money in order to get that versus my mom didn't put any service into the school. And I don't know, I just think it was the discussion amongst the people who were interested in doing it said they wanted to step back from the monetary donation tied to that. And so that was the discussion. I was just bringing it to the board's attention of, is there a potential to name the stadium after him for the service that he provided to the school, or not?
So, I can say I personally was one of those people who didn't like there necessarily being a price tag tied to it. I personally felt like the stadium should be named after him, and I didn't necessarily agree with there being a certain financial threshold in conjunction with it. So that's still how I feel. Now, I do want to clarify something Ms. Berger said, because I think we might be talking about two different things. You were referring to the arch specifically. So is your question whether we necessarily have to
Do we have
redo
to
the
change?
arch
Yeah, that's what I'm
in
saying.
order to name it? Is that
Can
your
we-
question? Can
well-
we leave the arch as it is and still name the stadium?
Yes, with like more
Yeah,
of
like
like a
Evo Stadium?
plaque type, a big kind of plaque to the like side or something.
Is that what you were asking? I just want to make sure I understand
Well,
what
I
your
had
head said.
twofold,
Okay.
actually, that we did kind of we've had a procedure, but the policy states that it doesn't have to be monetary. So, because I thought it was different than that. So, and I thought it tied more to our capital campaign, but it's not. It's just we have the ability to name it whatever we want.
Yeah.
But,
How you want to name it? It's up to
how that looks and yeah, I'm not quite sure. I think the conversation's good. Like, what do we do with that? Do we rename?
Yeah, I'm open to all perspectives. I just want to make sure I know what discussion we're having, because I think the discussion of whether to name the facility after him is ancillary to how do we display that name, which I think you were mentioning the arch. If you were saying whatever as far as the naming, I'm fine with that, but I don't
Well,
think we
and
should redo the arch. That's
Clarification of the
Okay.
complex versus also, that's another, like, are we just naming one thing? Are we naming the whole thing? Like, what are we doing?
The stadium, I mean, I don't think there's a boundary on the stadium. I guess it's the field and the bleachers and the entrance way.
Right.
I don't think it goes up to the tennis courts. I don't think it goes to the field house. I don't think it goes to the upper fields.
What is the entrance to all
It
that
is the
stuff?
entrance.
what
So
is
here's-
going to be at the Kroger entrance when it's done. What's that?
Another Beechwood schools.
The arch will read
It'll say
Beechwood
Beechwood
Schools.
Schools.
Okay.
The arch does one say Beechwood School?
Mhm.
Doesn't this one say Beechwood Stadium?
It does.
Correct.
Okay. So they're not gonna be the same,
Correct.
potentially.
They will not.
So here's a thought, the arch now says Beechwood Stadium. It is a multi-use field. It's not just a football field. It's a soccer field, it's a band competition, it's where graduations are held. So my thought would be either keep it as Beechwood Stadium or personally like Home of the Tigers. And then on the left-hand side, opposite of the right where the board flag is, you call it Mike Yeagle Stadium with a little picture of him and an explanation of why. So it still could be called Yeagle Stadium, but the arch, because it would be more inclusive to every student walking into that field, either stay Beechwood Stadium or Home of the Tigers. That's just a thought that I think is up
It
for
actually was
discussion.
supposed to be Home of the Tigers. I'm not sure how it got Beechwood Stadium, but way back, like, I don't know,
was too.
3 or 4 years,
It was
or 5 or 10, heck, I don't even know how long, whenever the first drawings
Yeah.
came up, it was supposed to say Home of the Tigers.
Well, if we
So-
decided to name it after Mike, then we probably should take Steiger Stadium off. Because we're naming, no matter what we do, we should maybe change the Home of the Tigers and then put the plaque or whatever. But you shouldn't leave Tiger Stadium up there and then name it.
Correct, because that's confusing.
That was my thought.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
can't have two
Yeah,
stadiums
I
that's
agree.
3 feet apart,
It's
so.
confusing, but it's just a thought, that's why we're having this
But
discussion
it was
today.
supposed to be, I didn't think I had dreamt that up. It was supposed to be Home of the Tigers.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how it got changed.
I do think the
Where-
plaque, at least, okay, if you just do Mike Yeager or Yeager Stadium at the arch, it doesn't explain who he is. If you put a plaque, you can explain why it's so important that he is being named. A little description.
I think it's great.
I don't think it takes away from it still being his name.
Home of the Tigers, Stadium, Yagle Stadium, explains it. Just that
Because the
is simple.
intent, if I'm understanding the intent correctly, is to honor the contributions that he made. And I
That
think
does a
with,
better job of it.
I think that does a great job.
But the question is, since it's not a monetary donation, what are the costs in order to do that? I think we have to make sure we're aware of that.
Yeah, I feel like it could look like the same bronze plaques that we had.
Right.
On the fence, but
Right.
Something like that.
With a picture like
Like
that,
a
with a
picture,
picture.
yes. Not, yeah.
Relief.
Yeah.
That over to the side, and then I get a quote for the Home of the Tigers if we want that.
Or what, yeah,
Plaque to the
just an
side.
idea.
Great.
And I'm not saying that I necessarily do. Does anybody feel like the two arches should match? That what it says at Kroger, it should say down here versus, no, nobody cared?
Well,
I feel like there's
I said, I don't necessarily feel that way, I'm just bringing it up that we're gonna have two different
Yeah.
I
entrances
feel
to
like
this.
Beechwood schools at Kroger makes sense because
Kids enter campus
kids
every
are
morning. yeah.
campus and, I don't know.
And it's a good title because people seeing it from 75, seeing Home of the Tigers, Beechwood School. I mean,
I don't know.
if they're different, no one's gonna walk to
I
each
don't
one.
feel
but
strong.
Yeah.
it's different.
Right, double check.
Well, it's still the same place.
I see the point of the saying Beechwood schools when you walk in.
Yeah.
You're coming in from a different angle, you're not walking through by the school,
Mhm.
but I'm
But
not
still,
like
it's
it's not matching.
I'm good with
Get
it.
a quote on Home of the
I
Tigers,
just think it's,
and then,
We'll get a quote on the plaque.
we just need to know what kind of cost we're considering.
Yeah,
That's
great. Love it.
all right, moving on to the consent agenda.
I'll make the motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Any discussion? There's a few things on here. Is there anything you wanna go
Yeah,
through?
I'll touch on the use of facilities normal, field trips are normal. The change orders, you see all those change orders? Those are change orders that were created by the mistake of the person doing the change order. So the money used to do that, they're paying for that. So these are like money in, money out. They put the money in, it goes right back out to the change order. So no cost to Beechwood. I think it might have been a total cost overall of a couple $100, $800. Nothing
Not much.
when it comes to change orders, not what you normally
And I
expect.
think we're expecting something else that's gonna wipe that out eventually.
Yeah.
It's finished.
So below that, you see a CFR request. That's a capital funds request. Do you need me to explain it? You can explain it briefly. Okay. We've got. Have you walked everybody?
Mhm.
So you guys are good.
I've walked everybody that I talked to.
So we're in good shape to do that. That will offset a lot of our one-time costs, snow removal, the trees, a lot of those things that pop up, property insurance increase, all those things can be offset. We can use some of those funds to help with our sustainability of our campus. So glad there. The reason for that is that biennium increase that the state took on equalization of our nickels. That increase is going to generate a significant amount of more money to our bonding. And so it gives us the flexibility to do something like that, a capital funds request. So it's great. PD plans, you can see those are submitted by the high school, the elementary, and then the district. The English learner plan, that's something we submit to the state. Lawrence Delton Camp, Tiffany Rudy put together our LAU, the plan for English learners. The NTI is just, we submit that every year to say, if we were to ever use NTI days, we're allowed to. We've never used them, but it gives us the flexibility in an emergency case that we would. The RSP contract is for a couple slots for students who need extra support. And then the payment schedule. So pretty straightforward on consent.
We're good? Mrs. Berger?
Yes.
Mr. Burns?
Yes.
Mr. Hood?
Yes.
Mrs. Slate?
Yes.
Mrs. Wood?
Yes. Great. Moving on to information portion, superintendent's report.
Great. We have first up our community engagement innovation team. This is the second to last installment of our 5 pillars. Community engagement being the 4th pillar that we're going to review. And I'll have Ryan and Sarah, Stephanie, come on up to talk about community engagement. Excited about this one, based on some of the work we've done over the past week.
Thursday.
Yeah, this past week.
We will be a little brief. This is the only one of our pillars where we had joint session before we presented, so some of this is going to be repetitive. So we will be brief for that reason, but at least for the public board meeting, we wanted to at least share. So community engagement, Brandon, you can, of course, all of this stems from the Beechwood Way. We never want to forget that. And then we have our 5 pillars. So looking at the goals, if you keep going for community engagement, again, reminder, 3 years. We have 3 years to work on these things, but the goals: improve communication, making communication transparent, timely, and accessible. Goal 2, increasing levels of engagement and expand our partnerships. And then 3, cultivate trusting relationships with all families, including from a diverse community. And you all got to hear the exceptional populations crew talk about that. Even though it's a different pillar, they really worked on goal 3. So a lot of different actions that we're going to talk about. Again, not saying in any way that we completed all of these in year 1, but there were a good chunk. And so we're going to go over kind of the 3 main areas that we worked on this year. Ryan's going to first talk about communication.
The next slide. All right. So obviously, one of the big things we wanted to find out, and we did this with our surveys and different bits of information, is first how to streamline communication so that everyone can get it, but not be overwhelmed by it, but also try to find and pinpoint different ways to communicate so that, because people get their communication from the school in a variety of ways. So of course you get your digital paper and in-person communications, do that all the time. Again, our surveys that we have given out and continue to give out to get some good feedback that we can take back and make good decisions. We got a new strategic plan, Justin with his well-attended superintendent advisory committees, his Tiger Nation podcast, again, just another avenue of getting out the good news and all the great things that happen here at Beechwood. The PR calendar that Dr. Schobel sends out frequently to just try to make sure that those opportunities are available for our staff. And then of course our school newsletters that our high school and elementary send out every week. We've got of course Class Dojo, district newsletter that's sent out once a month, and then of course weekly emails to staff and from staff. Then of course our monthly board presentations that we're doing right now. And then of course Legacy that wonderful Carol Byrne puts together, and then of course our board report that's sent out I believe twice a year as well. So just trying to streamline and find different ways to do that.
And then, of course, with partnerships, it was interesting because one of the first pieces of feedback that we were receiving was that we don't have enough partners that are outside of Fort Mitchell. So we have had those types of partnerships. So it was like, how do we make sure that we're communicating that better? So we wanted to make sure that our stakeholders know that there's a whole lot happening here. We, in addition to adding LinkedIn, having additional Facebook, social media posts, we also, of course, we shared with you earlier in the year the partnership portal, keeping track of our internship hours. By the way, just sitting there updating that, we are up close to 15,000 hours that our interns put out this school year, which was incredible.
a menu of services for our partners. So if I'm going and talking to different people, what does an EDGE challenge look like? How can you be involved? Would you like to be an internship partner? Really letting them know that there's multiple levels of involvement. Spotlights for our internships, really fun to see that on the new scoreboard this year. That was amazing. EDGE partner highlights at those football games. Love to see the broadcasting class putting those together. Just that full scope of not just us doing the work, but some student work involved in there as well. We just created not only a partner list, but a partner logo list that was shown at our EDGE showcase night, but also in our broadcast in this last episode as well. And then, of course, always we're looking forward to next year with quarterly partner recognitions and an event that we will host for our partners as well.
So coming to the innovation team, so that was some of the work even before the innovation team. The innovation team this year was looking at how we communicate, but also putting together a local accountability dashboard. So on our main state website, the Beechwood website, we are required to put our state testing scores at the top, which is great, and we're very proud of those. But Beechwood is so much more than that. And so we had the idea to create a dashboard of sorts where we would not just have our state testing data, but have all kinds of data, including, look what she just said about the number of hours our kids are doing, things like that to share. But not just numbers, also to have the stories. People love to see pictures. They love to see little stories about the great things going on, but keeping it simple where it's not too much. Oh, wait, will you go back? Yeah.
Come on, we're proud of this work.
Well, no, I more want to give some caveats. So we had an innovation team working on this. What I'm really proud about with this innovation team is we had a really great mix of admin, elementary staff, high school staff, classified staff that was really engaged in this work. Two of them are here today with us, Rachel and Sean, so thank you for being here. But we had quite a large group that was really invested in this work. Ryan mentioned surveys. So in addition to the initial strategic plan survey, you all have seen the mid-year survey we did as well. For our team, the 2 questions to students, to staff, and to families: what do you want to know more about Beechwood, to help us to know what should we put on the dashboard? Not just us as staff picking, but what do people want to know more about? And then how do you get your information? And you saw the survey results from that. We also did a review of other similar sites, not just in Kentucky and how people feature things, finding things we liked, finding things we didn't, but finding some examples even out of the state where we want to take little pieces. And I think some of the best work we've done at Beechwood over the years has been when we go see what others are doing and find the best little pieces and then make them fit for Beechwood. And so the team has worked on kind of what we want on it first rather than the design. And so for each of the 5 pillars, we all felt like organizing it around the 5 pillars of our strategic plan. Those have kind of been rocks for us for a while, that we would have a by the numbers section, a quantitative data section, and then a stories section for each of those pillars. And so as I told you at joint session, which if anyone doesn't know, our joint session is with our board and our 2 SBDM councils twice a year. And so we talked about this will be rolled out by the end of June. So the intent the last time we met as an innovation team was to take all of the work and input and spreadsheet and ideas that the team had based on stakeholder feedback and make a Google site. Then Justin had the great idea that why would we limit ourselves to Google Sites? Because Google Sites are wonderful. You've seen several things we made on that. There are some limitations to what you can do and create. So he's like, we can use AI to code our own website. And so we partnered with Andy Collison from UC, also parent, Van Booster president, Rachel's brother. And he came in, he has a grant, UC has a grant to work with educators on using AI. And one of their big components is it's important that the leaders get involved with that work and kind of get their hands dirty, for lack of a better word, and learn these skills as well to be in it with staff because of how much that is affecting the future. And so we Thursday then pivoted and started coding with AI. And so what we have for you today is in no way a final product. Like I said, we'll roll out by the end of June, but we wanted to at least have a homepage template for you. And so this, once we get a final draft of the whole site, the team is going to give input on it and all of that. But the idea is to have something professional looking, again, something different than Google Sites can do, explain our strategic plan, And then each of the pillars, again, will have where you can click on the left and go to a pillar page where you can learn more and see more examples about that pillar, but then have learning and leading, sticking with our Beechwood way, where you have a data component and a stories component where you could hover over those and see a feature. What we know, especially from the survey feedback, is that everyone doesn't want to, even as we are going through it as a team, everyone doesn't want to scroll and scroll and scroll. They don't want to read big things of text. So if someone wants to know more, we absolutely want that information to be available and they can click and find out more. But if they just want to see like a couple of spotlights that are current and we keep current, then they could hover over the learning and leading. So this is, again, just the homepage, links to the Beechwood website, our strategic plan, our Facebook, our Twitter, X, sorry. And so this is the homepage. So we will be working to now code the rest of it. But it's pretty neat. We've also learned how to code the admin backside of it. So you don't see that right now. It's also branded, by the way. I was happy with that. But where we have the right then to edit and change the positioning, to upload photos and all of that. But all of that is from scratch. And so we now own the domain. Beechwood owns the domain. We are beechwood.org. And so we will be working to code the rest of that website. This is the new part since joint session. I know you want to say stuff, so go.
No, I'm good. I can.
Come
That's
on.
exciting.
Why did you want to do it? Yeah.
First of all, to show that our staff that we've got to somehow learn what goes on with AI and how to utilize it in a way that is beneficial to then understand how we can shape it for the staff and how the staff can shape it for the kids. It is here. How we use it responsibly, how we use it effectively, how we use it so we don't get fooled by it. You know, like how do we maintain our critical and creative thinking skills through the process?
Mm-hmm.
How do we realize and get reinforced that by going through that coding process and using AI, it's like, man, if we didn't know how to think algebraically, or we didn't know cause and effect or algorithmic thinking, if we didn't have the foundational skills of how to think, we would be lost.
Right.
It would be a disaster. And so it's only reinforcing to all of us, especially us, is, man, these foundational skills that these kids learn with pen, paper, with reading, with writing, with math, are going to be vital in order to use this. You could use it with training wheels and be left behind, or you could take the training wheels off with a good skill set and stay at the front of the pack. And so how do we make sure that we're building a curriculum that allows them to utilize this in the best way that they could? But we can't do that unless we understand it. So us getting in there and learning, just it's remarkable what people have done and created with this stuff. But to learn just the tip of the iceberg has been really neat. And then to see it come to fruition with a site that's like, yes, we were able to do that. That's not like we didn't go somewhere and do it. We just talked to something called Codex, our AI agent. Said, okay, we're looking for like the steps required and the credits that you have to buy through ChatGPT, and then the digital ocean and getting the website. So all that is a really great learning experience. All with a cool product at the end. It's not a lot of clicks. It's not a lot of scrolling. There's not something you have to sift through to find what's really happening. Interactive, hover to see. I'm just really excited to keep working on it. So, yeah.
And just, you know, people hear AI, security, we talk about responsible use, things like that. There's no individual student data going into anything like this. We're talking all AP pass rate percentage, things like that. And so, but to think about that was nothing Thursday, like no template, nothing, and what you can do, and then how we can share that with educators as tools, how then our kids and what they're going to be able to do that will be way better than us in no time is pretty amazing.
Basically, we used AI to make our own software. We now have our own basically little software admin where we can build any website now using our coded information, which is really neat. And then Tiger GPT might be on the way. So we got a meeting coming with University of Cincinnati. They just built their own in-house AI. So you have some guardrails there, and teachers can work within that system to say, okay, on this one, this particular activity, we're gonna do Tiger GPT level 2. So all the kids who are in it can only go to that level 2 by our guidelines. So I don't know if it's possible. We're gonna ask them if they can scale down the university level of Bearcat GPT down to Tiger GPT, and hopefully we'll be on the forefront of having our own in-house AI agent for kids with a lot of guardrails, a lot of more privacy, I think, for that. So Tim is excited about me. So Tim, real quick, Tim, whenever I start talking like this, it's gonna be this, can't do this, millions of dollars. And so I just used AI to counter Tim. I said, is that right?
So far, I've been correct.
Yeah, right.
How many tokens have we purchased? Anyway.
Well, and to that point,
we're learning.
I know that's
thinking about what we would pay someone to create our own website, and versus what we can do through learning is pretty cool. And then just to clarify, we aren't getting rid of our Beechwood website. We redid that several years ago. So that is staying, and that is very comprehensive. That's the place to go to for all the different resources. That's a different purpose than this. It would be linked to it, but this is for the simple highlights. You want to share, with someone about the great things going on at Beechwood, here it is in a simple place, not lost in all of the other resources. So that is what we'll be working on and roll out in June. That's exciting.
That's great.
Good work. Any questions? Okay. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
Next up, we have Colt Place. We're going to do a presentation on our strength and conditioning program at Beechwood for all of our student athletes. Welcome.
Hello, everybody. It's been almost 2 years. I don't think I've had the privilege to meet most of you. Colt Place. This July we'll be finishing up 2 years here at Beechwood. So, in the time we've been here, I've worked with pretty much 6th grade through our 12th graders, all athletes, all sports, and just kind of wanted to dive into just a little bit of the data and kind of the behind the scenes and the way I kind of see things and how we've been improving our entire athletic program. So just kind of at an initial glance while I've been here, over the course of the entire calendar year, this is kind of just a snapshot of just all of our different teams, how much time they've kind of spent in the weight room on a month-to-month basis. On the high end, some of our athletes are averaging about 10, 11 months out of the year, which is going to be about the maximum that they could be in the weight room with just the policies in place from the KHSAA of dead period and like that transition period after their sports are over. Overall, I've had a lot of good success really building up our middle school groups as well. We added middle school track this year to the weight room, young coaching staff, so we've been able to work together there. We got all of our basketball levels, all of our football levels from middle school all through high school, and then cross country, golf, soccer, archery. So it's been really, really fun getting to work with all of those athletes. And then I work with essentially all the coaches, so our calendar rotates based on the season. So priority is always going to be our in-season teams. So right now we're finishing up spring, so baseball's priority, softball's priority, track, and then our preseason's kind of that next of priority, which is going to be all of our fall sports. So soccer's already been getting in the weight room, football's been in the weight room, volleyball started in the weight room, so we're getting those things rolling. And then that off season is kind of that last tier, which essentially at this point right now would be all of our winter athletes. So basketball is already actually back in the weight room, and they'll go through the entire summer. So in just the time and just kind of a large snapshot, our average attendance per season, we've had a little over 200 athletes on average, regardless of sports, age group, that have been consistently hitting the weight room. Winter obviously looks like a really low number, but that's primarily just because our winter sports are a lot smaller teams. You're talking basketball, maybe 10, 12 kids a team versus in the fall, you have the soccer programs, the volleyball program, the football programs. So fall, and then kind of similar to spring, baseball, softball, football, track. Those are just kind of our large groups. But a lot of our kids actually do fall into multiple categories because we do have a lot of multi-sport athletes. So, I've been blessed to be able to see on a week-to-week basis probably over 200 athletes a week consistently. So we've had a lot of kids putting in a lot of good work through that as well. For me, so you kind of saw the large picture of a lot of different teams. Our main key performance indicators, I got the main kind of 4 things that I'm looking at. Obviously, we want kids to get stronger, so we use the trap bar deadlift pretty much with all the athletes there. It's like a hexagon shaped bar, their hands are on it, puts them in a little bit more of a safer position there. Sprints are a big thing for any athlete. Any kid probably wants to get faster, probably has a goal of getting faster, or their head coach thinks they would probably be a better contributor in their sport if they were faster. So max velocity is a big one for me. We have the iDasher gates. We use those to track our sprints. Gives me miles per hour, and we're able to look at that over the course of year to year, month to month. And having conversations with those head coaches of like, hey, here's the guys that we see are doing a really good job. Vertical jumps is another big one. We have a mat the kids can stand on. They jump. It calculates how long they're in the air. Gives me a number of their vertical jump. So we have some consistency using some awesome technology and data there. And then the classic old school broad jump, we just get a tape measure out and see how far they can jump. So these are kind of the 4 basic components of data tracking in terms of athletic performance. To try and, if they're improving at all 4 of these, then I can tell that coach, like, hey, this kid, this girl, they're jumping higher, they're running faster, they're getting stronger. Those are all the things we're looking for. And most high schoolers should be able to achieve all 4 of those simultaneously over the course of a school year. And then the one that's a little less trackable is movement competency. Like I talked about, we have a lot of middle schoolers in the weight room. The max strength is not going to be the biggest concern for those individuals. It's just, can they learn to move well, work out hard, do things safely, learn their body weight. If they can't really do a push-up, getting really strong, picking something up might not be of the most importance for them. And we've had a lot of, participation through those young kids in the last year. They're really happy with their progress as they get to be the high school group and see those data and metrics continue to improve as well. The reason our training kind of differs though is because I kind of look at all the sports just a little bit differently. So there's kind of that technical, tactical, and the physical element. Some of your sports are very physical versus some of your sports are very technical. But at the end of the day, if they're getting stronger, they're getting faster, and they're jumping higher, and I can help keep them healthy, the rest of those will kind of take care of itself with that coaching staff as well. And then it kind of breaks down into more categories. So we got speed, strength, power, conditioning, and mobility. Any given sport obviously varies a little bit, so I kind of take all that into consideration. If I'm working with my volleyball girls, that looks a little bit different than working with a baseball player, working with a football player, working with a cross-country athlete. So yes, we have our KPIs. I want to see those improve, but there's other stuff that we're doing too to make sure that they're healthy and able to compete at a high level, whether they're having to serve constantly overhead. There's some shoulder considerations there versus somebody who maybe just runs cross country. They're not going to need to think about some of those things volleyball or baseball players would consider. So looking into the deeper details, early on, our average for our trap bar deadlift across all of our athletes was around 205 pounds. Now we're sitting at about 322 pounds for the average over the high school. So we saw about a 68% increase. The yellow dash line there is just based on the national average. So we can obviously see that the strength was well above the minimal kind of standards I'd be looking for. We did have a couple outliers who came to Beechwood and high school as tuition students that really benefited from some structured programming, and they brought those averages up a little bit, but across all the sports, really happy with just the overall strength output. For me, speed's kind of the number one that I want to see everybody improve at. We might not all run the 100-meter dash in the Olympics, but everybody can still get faster. So they all started around 17, saw a 6.5% increase, and the national average was around 4%. So very pleased with that overall, and that's where those timing gates are awesome to be able to consistently track speed. Unfortunately, we did have some snow on the ground for like a month, a foot of it. That kind of hindered some of our ability to sprint for a while, but we got right back out there as soon as we could. Vertical jump, we saw about 24.1 early on. Now they're sitting around 25.8, so close to the national average, around 8%. I want to see that improve with all the athletes, but I think vertical for like your basketball and volleyball is a little more important than, some athletes in other sports where maybe vertical is not as important, but 7.4% was our school average, and 8 was the national, so pretty happy with that overall, pretty in line, and want to continue. I got the individual records, I kind of skipped over that, but we got some individuals doing some really great things. Our current was 36.1. And then lastly, the broad jump being that horizontal, how far can they jump, which kind of ties in also with their sprint numbers. Sitting around 87, had a 5.2% increase, national average being around 6. But maybe, tweak a few things next year to see if we can bump that up a little bit more to kind of match our trap bar and our sprint, since we're doing really well in those areas, to just make sure everything's getting better equally. But overall, I think that should be the last one. Overall, really happy with continued progress, success, being able to use technology and software. We have 10 iPads in the weight room. There's a software on there. Every athlete's in there, and they can enter their numbers as we're working out. So there's a little bit of autonomy on their side of it as well. But that allows us to be able to track all of their numbers, and then I pull that report and, hey, head coach, these guys are getting better, these girls are getting better, and then that kind of just creates conversations and also helps our athletes set goals as well. They see themselves getting better, and the machine will be like, hey, you did this last time, maybe you can do more today, that type of thing. Any questions, I guess I should say?
Nothing, questions, it's great information though, I like it.
I love that you have all this data. It's fantastic.
I have like 5.
5 questions?
Really quick. It's just for learning.
Yeah.
Number 1, you tailor the workouts to the sport.
Yep.
Based on whatever movements they have, what they're going to need strength in. Okay.
I would say, kind of generally speaking, first lens I look at is, are we working out before or after practice? That's going to kind of dictate some things. And then I would say most of our kids, 80% of it's probably the same regardless of sport, because at the end of the day, they are high school and middle schoolers, and that time allotment kind of dictates. But yeah, there are always considerations of how do we change this from sport to sport.
Okay. Number 2 is, you had that tracking of, this one, this is
This
broad
one's
jump.
just, yeah.
Say broad jump.
Yeah.
Are you able to, that's all of them. Are
Yeah.
you able to break it down by the team?
Yes, I could with the categories and structure, yeah.
So like, you could take the girls soccer team and say,
Correct.
okay, I'm gonna look at your guys' broad jump and
Yep.
say, oh my gosh, girls soccer broad jump grew a ton while archery did not.
Correct.
But so you can track
Yep.
that data.
Yep.
Okay. Then can you break it from there down to individual?
Yeah.
Like that kid saying, all right, my broad jump was here, it's here. I had a ton of growth. Actually, my growth wasn't higher than the national average.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, that was my second question, because I think as a parent, I'd love to, maybe not the parent, maybe the kid might like to see their data and compare to that national average, that baseline of how maybe they grew in some areas and they did in others.
What's cool too is like the software, when we max out and they record that new max, now that system will tell them, so then the next time they do that lift, they can see right there. And if we're doing 70% of your best today, that's like what we're trying to achieve, then that, the iPad will tell them, hey, here's what you should be doing today because you've done this and that's your previous best, and this is where we think you'll be based on these percentages.
So those max out days set that bar for them.
Yep,
Okay.
which on average, we max out like once to twice a year, just kind of depending on the sport, the season. On average, you want like at least a couple months of good training before you would try and record to see where that progress is at. So I would say normal, about twice a year, we try to retest these numbers. Some we kind of hit more consistently than others though.
Great. And then engagement of coaches. Do you see engagement? Is there any strategy you're like, I got to get these coaches a little bit more engaged, or does that play a role in the effectiveness of your program, the engagement of the coaches?
No, I try and make it so that the coaches in the off season specifically can be with their families, because that's honestly why you guys hired me. In season, the coaches, it's more built into that practice structure. So a coach or one of the coaches is usually present. I would say a lot of our teams do a really good job of, let's say they have 4 coaches on staff, they kind of take turns, just making sure from that accountability standpoint.
But you take it off their plate in the off season to
Correct, yeah.
Keep it going.
Primarily, I have it all set up that I would not need, that help, but they're always welcome to be there. I encourage them to be there. But yeah, off season, it's like, hey, this is your off season. You don't need to be here all the time because you got a family too. But I would say a lot of our staffs, somebody's always present, and they kind of communicate that amongst themselves to get that oversight as well and help out.
Okay, injury prevention. Do you see any trends at Beechwood, like, all right, we've got to do something about this particular thing? Or is it, or across the board or in the region? Do you see anything where you've like kind of said, okay, we need to train on this particular thing because I see it getting injured a lot?
There were some issues when I came in that we had that I kind of inherited a little bit that I thought were very fixable, preventable. That would be soft tissue, hamstrings, kind of sprint related stuff. In the 2 years I've been here, I feel like we've definitely reduced a lot of that. I think we've only had, I think in the 2 years, like concussions are down, soft tissue injuries are down. A lot of that, Slusher would probably have that information, obviously.
That would be interesting.
But him and I work very closely together, you know, on that. I feel like a lot of, to say an injury is preventable is kind of a reach a little bit, but I think we have a lot of things in place to give our athletes the best opportunity to be present for their sport. The prime example I think of is when the football team won the state championship, they only had one kid not wearing pads that game in December. So I mean, if you have 45 of your 46 kids available, that's the end goal. The best ability is availability. So if the kids can't play their sport, then I mean, lifting and all of that's not as important if they can't actually play.
All right, last question. John, barrier to growth. What is your, not barrier, but what's your goal for now? What do you want to improve the most next year? Between now, it's ending up the end of the school year. What's your like primary, here's what I want to get better at for my program next year?
It's probably a lot of the like younger kids, those smaller groups. You know, I think the teams that have had a lot of success at Beechwood in the last couple of years are the teams that have put in the most work in the weight room. Volleyball, track and field, football, baseball. Like they do a really good job. I think it's getting those middle school kids more and more in the weight room and maybe getting to like more of a hybrid model in terms of like how we structure the school day or like the weight room day. I think as we get later into the evening with any sport outside of football, you're competing with club soccer, club volleyball, club basketball. So it's just, there's never going to be like that perfect answer, but I think it
building a culture amongst the younger kiddos.
Yeah, I think, I mean, not that we
training.
don't have it,
Yeah,
but, you know, outside of football, making sure that, you know, these middle school track, like I said, we added that this year. That was awesome. Got those boys and girls in the weight room consistently twice a week after lifting. I think as we continue to just kind of grow the youth levels, a lot of this stuff through high school kind of takes care of itself by that point.
Awesome.
You know, cleaning up, trying to see maybe some of those other metrics get a little bit better, but I mean, I think our attendance has been great. We haven't had a glaring injury where it's like, hey, this thing keeps showing up over multiple athletes. Maybe we need to address this. Haven't had any of that. So overall, very happy. Very similar stuff to kind of the previous model, and most of the public schools in the tri-state kind of all use a similar after-school model, just with the school-based curriculum and after-school opportunity as well.
Great, I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
No problem. Anybody else? I know Mr. Kaiser had a lot of questions for
I just
me.
had a question about the attendance.
Yeah.
I know a lot of sports, like you mentioned, the club sports.
Yeah.
People play this one sport year round.
Yep.
How, and you mentioned that you kind of take that upon for the coaches on the off season.
Mhm.
Are you getting good attendance from all participants, or is it something that's a struggle trying to get people to come into off season for the weight room?
For the off season, I would say like most of them are good. Like for example, like basketball right now, they've already started open gyms, so their lifting's kind of built into their open gym schedule. So they go to open gym for like an hour and a half, they come straight to lifting with me. So like some of that stuff, like if we can build it into their practice schedule, it takes care of a lot of that. Like they're going to go straight from being with their sport coach to being with me, and you don't usually have like attendance issues. Soccer, for example, right now, like they lift a little later in the evenings. We've had to move some things around with track. There's no perfect answer. If there's 5 club teams in Northern Kentucky and they all play for different teams, you know, Timmy might have practice on Monday and Wednesday. Susie might have practice Tuesday, Thursday. It's just trying to create the best opportunity. And I think a couple of those, like we have like an open lift time I try and offer too, or hey, I know you might have missed your designated time with tennis or soccer. If you can make this time, just show up then too, and that's fine. Yeah. And all of that's like recorded in Team Builder as well, so I can share that with the coach if they're not there. Like, hey, who showed up today? How many did he have? And we can have that conversation.
How important is kind of like warming up for this, you know, before you work out? Because that, so many thinks when they jump in there, that's when the injury happens.
Yeah. So I mean, everything we do, dynamic based warm up. So on average, it takes about 8 minutes. So if I see the kids for an hour session, we're going to spend about 8 to 10 minutes warming up, 10 minutes doing jumping, running, sprinting, explosion stuff, and then that rest of the time will be weightlifting based. But absolutely got to spend time prepping the body before we go and do this stuff. Whether that's on the field or in the weight room, I orchestrate that as needed. I always try to get the kids outside if we can, but yeah, dynamic base, we're not just doing like static stretches, touching the toes. We're got a whole sequence of things that I put together that I pretty much use with all of our teams and all of our athletes, and I share that with their coaches. And I know some of them end up kind of tying that back into their warm-ups before their sport practice as well, which is where you see a big reduction in injuries as well, just taking the proper time to warm up.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
It's really good, thank you.
All right, on to the finance report. Christy, you want to come up here so you can get
Oh,
on
I.
the camera?
I'm like, I have to move. Well, brief and look at the financials. Currently through April, that's what we have completed. We're 96% of our budgeted revenue year to date. We have some public service corporation taxes to collect, and we're still continuing to collect SEEK on a monthly basis. They spread over. So we're pretty much going to be at 100 or higher probably of what we budgeted for revenue by the end of the year. Our expenses on the flip side, we're about 71.5% of our budget. So we're very in a good position right now. But keep in mind, May is a big month because we do this in order to pay out the teacher's contract. They essentially get paid 5 times in the month of May instead of 2 times. So you'll see that kind of waffle back and come in line. But we are anticipating to have a surplus for the year, though.
That's great news.
That's all I have, unless someone has a specific question.
Justin has 5 questions.
I know, he might.
My turn to morph into 7.
Great.
Thank you, Christy.
All right, thanks.
All right, the draft for this 27-28 school calendar. I know that we said it's not set in stone, but it is set in stone. So just a draft. But we talked a little bit about that at the session. Any questions on that?
Oh, no question.
The only little minor change that we talked about at joint session was the day back from Christmas break. That we've seen the trend around schools of having that day for professional learning, getting teachers back in the building, getting them acclimated, so that Tuesday the kiddos come back. So that was the only major change. So if no questions on that, that's it.
Okay, all right, next session is, we have a closed session per KRS 61.810, for acquisition of property. And just take a motion to go into closed session.
I'll make a motion to go into closed session.
Second.
We all need.
All right. Come back in 1 hour.
So are you all still fine?